Salutations,
No.
dickwads. Welcome to
You
the Strength
prepared
Studio.
that, didn't you? You knew that's what you were going to say.
After the last episode, I was like, next one is dickwads.
You had a few responses to... What was it you said last time?
Oh, someone just died. I can't remember. What's up, dickheads? Something like that?
Something like that, yeah. Wow, sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, as you were.
Welcome back, or welcome to the Strength Studio. Today we're talking with Callum Barney.
It'll be welcome back. Like, there's no one coming here for first visit.
Who knows? Callum Barney, you've probably heard from him before. What are we going to talk about today?
I just want to clarify, by the way, this isn't like an interviewee... Oh, you know what, I need to adjust the frame on that. But
Yeah.
it's not interviewee like we're just interviewing Callum today. We are just chatting, right? Like, same page?
Chat shit,
Get banged.
get banged.
I've realised it's not the frame, it's like there's a wall next to you. I
Oh.
didn't even clock that at all.
Okay.
I thought we'd just talk about like athletes, clients, like mindset shit.
Yes.
Kind of
Also,
like- oh, okay.
early on,
We're already...
is the title clickbait?
What? Why? Shall it be?
No, is
Well,
it?
if
You
we're
know
telling
the
them-
title of this?
Episode?
Yeah.
I don't know what the title is yet.
You told me the other day what it was going to be.
What was I going to put? Oh, yeah. No.
No?
Oh, wait, hold on. So we're telling... They've read the title. We're saying that like
I'm whispering
we're
it.
whispering it. They've read the title, and now you're asking me if it's clickbait.
Yes.
We're immediately killing the question.
So-
Leave it till later. Come back to it. Is it clickbait? See you in 20 minutes. No, I wanted to talk about like just because a lot of the stuff that you see on powerlifting podcasts, but as people have said to me, like they really like seeing actual powerlifting content and talking about the lifting shit because they're powerlifters. Kind of makes sense. But
Yeah.
I don't want to just talk about like powerlifting in terms of let's talk about what's going on at the IPF and Worlds is coming and
Yeah.
that stuff. I want to talk about stuff that everyone deals with, of like the mentality stuff, because you and I have spoken about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have done the experience of being the newbie to first comps to like becoming someone winning to holding that to being the person people chase to giving up and then to injury, and I've done all of it, and now I'm doing, obviously I've been for a while, the coaching side of it, of seeing it in other people.
Yeah.
And I actually was going to say to you, I kind of want to expand my coaching, like some plug-in add-ons to coaching of like mindset phone calls.
Yeah.
Because people don't know, some people don't know, my first degree was in psychology. I have a lot of love for talking about athlete mindset because I think powerlifting, you just cut, like all you see is powerlifters talking about mindset, and they're idiots.
Yeah.
They're not like there's not many real athletes in
Yeah.
powerlifting who get it.
I think the extent that you will usually see is you'll see your mates in the gym and you'll be like, oh, how's it going? You're like, oh, yeah, just finding it tough.
Or
Or like, oh, training's a bit of a slog at the moment. But, you know, it's just part of the process, isn't it?
yeah, or people just being like, trust the process, as if that's as far as mentality goes.
Yes. And with that, you know, with those things, those aren't high-level international athletes. So it'd be really interesting
No, but even
to
them,
delve into
like
that.
the best that high-end international athletes talk about sports psychologists, the only one anyone fucking names is Amelia Potter. I've spoken with her. That is not the deep depths of
She's
the ocean
getting way
of
too much airtime on this podcast.
No, but my point being, there's like 3 sports psychologists in powerlifting,
Yeah.
and they are not people who have worked with sports.
Yeah.
Their first work is powerlifting, and love to you all. You don't know the first fucking thing about like what that is, because I've just made a series that will be maybe over the next couple of weeks, I don't know, about athlete mindset, like really simplistic stuff, but talking about framing, talking about like how certain individuals will deal with the moments differently, what they see as opportunity versus hurdle. Like
Yeah.
I'm every problem is a door open, like everything is an opportunity to learn something. And then that whole bit I want to talk about of like what would you put them through. I just think like it's such a shallow knowledge field, because the people
Yeah.
who seem like they know loads, Dunning-Kruger effect, they know so little but think they know so much because they don't know how much they don't know.
Yeah.
And if you went to the world of so I'm watching Sprint on Netflix.
Yes, I was going to bring that
it's
up.
what's really pushed me on this.
Yeah.
So if you haven't watched it, Sprint on Netflix is about the sprinters, 100 and 200 meters. I think there's some stuff past that, but you see them go and compete, and the characters are so different. There are some who are like outlandish. I'm the fucking best. I'm going to crush it. I'm going to kill everyone. I'm here to beat you. I used to be that. Like that was fully my attitude. And then there's people who are like stoic, being like, no, breathe. You know what you're doing. It's this moment. This is what you do.
Yeah.
And all of this really varies on the person, because someone will listen to it being like, I'm not going to be cocky and arrogant. That's not me. I'm like, you don't have to be.
Yeah.
Someone else listening to this, you fucking do.
Yeah.
Because there is going to be a massive difference in response. So it's just,
How do you start to discover that?
you figure out the why.
Okay.
And that's why like the Simon Sinek stuff always resonated with me. And again, like the stuff I'm name dropping, if you care about this topic, write down the names. So write Simon Sinek, go watch the Sprint documentary, listen to Hormones, you talk about psychology, just mentality. But yeah, so Simon Sinek doing the deep dive on why. So like, okay, so let's take you. Why do you do powerlifting? We're going to do this properly. We're actually going to do this properly.
Okay.
Why do you do powerlifting, in your opinion? Because I'm going to tell you you're probably wrong.
I honestly don't think I know the answer right now.
Okay. Well, you used to say things like, I want to be as strong as I can be.
Yeah.
Right. So normally that comes from a degree of invalidation of other things of going, I can pinpoint something I'm good at. This makes me feel like I'm capable. And that's why it carries into other areas of life. Yeah. I dictated I would do X, outcome was Y, I did that, I'm in control. So normally control or validation.
Yeah.
And so if it's going like, okay, so it's competition time, what's going to do best for you? It's normally the I can, what can I control? And so it leans into like, okay, you have to practice, a lot of people will have to, but things like visualization. What's going to look like on the day? What are those things? What are those parameters? I need control. That is the thing that resonates with me really well. Yeah. So you want to see the venue. You want to know what it's going to be like, right? So immediately like this resonates.
Yep.
Okay, so once you go into like, okay, you have to visualize it. You have to know what you're going to control. Then the mindset into the lift has to be, because it was all about, I did X to ascertain Y, it has to be, that has to be the thing that you resonate through every single lift. So I'm going to do this because I have done X. Right. I know I can do this lift because I did this double. I did this single. Yeah. Let me go watch those videos. Remind me I can handle that load. Yeah. Right? So like, I'm not guessing I'm good at this shit, but I just don't talk about it because like some people don't want to get into that bit. And I find it really disheartening to try the conversation where it doesn't want to be heard. Also, I think
as well, it's not really very objective. It will be incredibly subjective.
No, massively so. But like a lot of what I've just said will resonate with quite a lot of people. Yeah. Some people not at all. But they will have to be like, I have done this before and so I can. And that's normally a level of lifter who's not international elite yet because they're doing
things they've never done before.
And that comes down to, no, I am the fucking best. Put it on the bar, doesn't matter. My thing, and I remember literally, I think it was the third Worlds I did. And they were like, what do you want for your third? And I was like, tell me what I need to win. And they were like, I don't know the number. I was like, I don't need to know the number. Put it on the fucking bar, I'll pull it. And it was such a sheer, and it was a cultivated thing. It wasn't like it was inherent, I'm an arrogant fuck and I can beat everyone. You know me, I'm incredibly self-critical. It was a practice experience of, I need to believe more than everyone else here because they're going to work because they think they can beat me. And there's no one ahead of me. So I need to think I can beat anyone ever, anything that can ever be done. Yeah. And so that became, like, I think people, if you're getting into the level you're trying to win, you're getting to podium sort of stuff. So, and I know I name drop the same sort of people as normally people are aware of, and I have the best experience to say, but like Lucy. Yeah. So Lucy's going to her first, not her first Worlds, going to Worlds. And she's seen what's the fucking numbers? Basically like the predicted totals, whatever.
Oh yeah, the
nominated totals, thank you. They've seen them go up, no podium chances. Yeah. And that changes what the psychology going in has to be. It doesn't have to be her psychology, it's the one she has to use to approach it. Now, when it comes down to like, okay, you want to be the best squatter there is, because that's on the fucking cards for her. And being like, okay.
I thought you were talking to me for a second, I was like,
I'd love to.
I'm listening.
Tell me how. So for her, it will have to be, okay, so I'm not just here to compete in squatting. I'm the one you want to watch how to fucking do this. I am so good at this shit, which means that my job has to be skill orientation, understanding of movement. So that no matter what goes on the bar, it's I know how to squat. Not I'm just strong, it's just I do this. So even if you look at my bio, which is my representation of this, is the powerlifting coach. It's not I'm one of the best. It is I am the powerlifting coach. Yeah. Very intentional psychology. And I think it has a massive shift depending on what the opportunity is. The arrogance thing is, the only big thing for me is arrogance is fragile. So when you're pushing, and arrogance is kind of not the same side of the coin as confidence. They're not even opposite sides. They're kind of different coins you're flipping, right? So confidence is what we're trying to install in someone like you. I have done this, therefore I can do this. Yeah. Arrogance is I have not done this, I need to believe I can do this. Yeah. And so one with the flip has two sides of danger. On the side is just like complete collapse. Yeah. Your sides of confidence can be, okay, I didn't get it on my fucking second attempt, but I know I can reinstall that same confidence.
Yeah, well, that is exactly what happened to Lucy at Nationals. Yeah. She didn't get her second squat, like proper failed it.
And it was arrogance. Right. And she knows it was arrogance. So we had a chat about it. So it was a 180 second attempt. we know she can fucking squat 180.
Yeah, because the predicted third was...
Oh yeah, it was like
record,
minimum 185, 187 for a third attempt. Relatively aggressive first into second. And she went in so arrogant, which she was supposed to, but having gone skiing a few days before, needed to reinstall, like, no, how do you achieve this? Because we know you can, we need to go back to the other mentality. And it shifted to, I can, just smash through it, didn't pay attention, lost the squat.
Yeah.
Did it on her third, but yeah, so one of them's a bit more fragile. But this is what I mean, is like, psychology for the individual is so interesting because there's so many facets of powerlifting or just training where you go comparison, which we all know is a nightmare, expectations, normally what you carry into a competition, and also I need to say the most important thing is 90% of the comps you'll ever do will never matter again.
Yeah.
Like maybe the 10% will. The best comp you'll ever do, you've probably not done. And if you have, you're probably not in powerlifting anymore. So if you're listening to this, like you're probably like, I don't want to do it anymore. If you've done the best meet you've ever done, powerlifting becomes really demoralizing. I know I haven't done my best meet because my old numbers aren't that good. So I'm holding off. But like you take most people, so if we say people who are climbing, and I would consider newbies, they might not say it themselves, but I would still call you a newbie because I play long game. So I'll name people like Georgia Bryden, Kaylee, Chloe, like they're some of my core people that I can refer to anyway, but I'm like, you're newbies, which means that you will forever climb and your psychology now will change over time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a bit rushed on this one. Yeah, you're a fucking newbie.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like a newbie.
Well, because also one of the things that
hope so.
I measure the level of athlete not only by time in the sport, but also the percentage of quality, percentage of variables they're controlling. So like...
Don't out me now.
You're going to get rinsed. And I'll use myself as the example, so I'm not drawing on extraneous, immeasurable things that people wouldn't do. But for myself, when it was like Worlds, and I said to you, like, if I'm going to prep, I'm going to prep. And prep for me is absolutely no excuse on anything ever again. So, and I'm a zero tolerance. So it's every warm-up, every session, every bit of the loading stuff beforehand, the intent of every warm-up, the intent of every top set, like the quality of all of the lifting, what my recovery looks like, what I do straight after the session, before the session. Yeah. I don't give a fuck what my other requirements are. It's been like, you have to be at this meeting. No, I'm cancelling it. Like, it's the biggest meeting of your life. I'm cancelling it. I don't care. Everything will be put to the wayside. My meals will be absolutely bang on. My nutrition will be like inexcusable. So like 10 calorie is like my buffer of mistake.
10? Yeah,
like that's my absolute buffer. There's no excuse to, in my mind, it's like there's no excuse for anything else. There's no reason to, because it's not that fucking hard. But that'll be my absolute. And so I know that's possible, which is why when someone's like, I want to be the best, I'm like, I know the standard.
Yeah, because I think I know the answer, but what would you say to someone who heard you say that and said, that's either obsessive or unhealthy?
Well, then just be average. Well, like, I'm cool with that, but like, if you, and that's not even saying that would make me the best. It's every possible opportunity. Chance, exactly. Because what I don't want, and the thing that would haunt someone like me, is I go to comp day and making weight was hard because I did 6 months of lazy work. Yeah. And therefore the performance was impacted. Or warming up felt unpredictable because I haven't had that quality. Yeah. Or I do, like, you fucking misgroove a lift. People saying misgroove, like, you're just not skilled consistently. Yeah. Or you're not strong enough. There's just one or the other. Misgrooves don't happen by complete sheer fucking luck. There was something in the execution that wasn't there. So I just don't want to be haunted by the mistakes that I made. I want the whole, like, I want to leave it all on the table and be like, I did everything I could. But if it came to most people, you don't have to do that. But what I'm saying is, you look at it like a pie chart of no, that doesn't work. Pyramid? Spokes of a wheel.
Spokes of a wheel.
Spokes of a wheel, right? And every single spoke is a variable. So whether that's meal timing, macro, calorie, hydration, sleep, but sleep over extended periods of time, like extending that time horizon, not being like, oh, I sleep 8 hours on average. I'm like, no, per night. Don't care about the average. What do you do every single day? Yeah. What are the things you do before bed? Every single one of those things, and then your training, and then the reps, and then the warm-ups, then your accessories, and then every accessory, I'm highlighting accessories because people are fucking lazy, every single one is a spoke. And every one you take away increases the chance the tire collapses. Yeah. So I see the amount of variables as how bad you actually care. Yeah. Because if you're like, I'll do all of my sessions because they're programmed, I'm like, that's like 20%. As far as I'm concerned, that's very low. Yeah, like saying, oh, I did all my sessions, didn't skip any. I'm like, I am so far from impressed. If you were like Gen Pop and being like, I'm just trying because it's fun, do the bare minimum. Absolutely. But the number of those spokes I expect you to control is literally tied to the goal that you supposedly have. And if your goal is just to get stronger, you don't need many spokes.
Yeah. So how...
I like that metaphor.
How far out from a competition would you need, or let's just talk about you, because obviously different people are going to be different. And I think I fall into one of what I'd consider maybe 3 categories, which I'll talk about in a sec. But for someone like you, how far out from comp are you saying you need everything at 100%?
As soon as I know I'm going to compete. So if it's a year, it's a year. If it's, okay, I've got like...
You haven't started, you're not sleeping.
I didn't know when the comp was going to be. And I still don't know when the comp date is.
Yeah.
But now I have a region and I'm like, okay, like I'm getting this nailed in. And then if I know that's what's happening, it's every day. But also, this sounds so arrogant, don't care. Rest of the year, I don't drop off all those spokes. The only one that goes is sleep. Like sleep sucks. My nutrition, I've tracked every single day within like a pretty good amount of detail and checked body weight every single day since December like 15th. And I haven't missed it since.
Yeah.
And now my body weight I'm very in control of. And my training, I am so fucking anal and trying to look after as best I can.
Yeah.
I hired a coach to make sure that I could control some of the variables to the benefit or detriment of my training, like initially, but it's to make sure the longevity of it is going to be better. So my minimum is never that low. My maximum is just substantially higher.
Because I think there's probably more than 3 categories, but the ones that kind of come to mind, and I'm making these up, these aren't real things.
Immediately I was like, there's no 3 categories.
No.
I really want to know what they are.
I think you've got your elite who, I won't even say elite because it's not even necessarily the outcome, but those who are like, I absolutely want to be the best and will do anything to get there. And I am doing those things. I'm not just saying it, I am doing it.
If I interrupt you, you're going to remember those 3 things, those 3 categories.
Maybe.
Because I have the first one, the elite versus the big goal are very different people.
Yes.
Just because they can't really put them under the same umbrella.
No, but just...
So there's a difficulty in that because there are people with the goal.
Let me finish what I was saying and then I'll figure out which one I mean.
Do your 3 and then we'll kill it.
So let's say the people who want to be the best and will actually do everything that they can to be the best or their best. Let's go with that.
Okay.
And then at the bottom, you've got the hobbyists, the ones who will probably only ever do regionals, may not even ever podium at a regional or win best lifter at a regional.
I'm definitely
they do it for fun.
I'm gonna have to break these because there are some people who are the first one, but just haven't made it to being, because so people at regionals, just because they're at regional doesn't mean they're not the ones that work unbelievably fucking hard. It just might mean that they're not getting to the same level.
No, okay, so take out ability, out actual ability and outcome.
Yeah.
Those who are willing to do whatever it takes, those who are happy just being part of the 99%.
Yeah.
And don't aspire to be much more than that. And then I think I fall into a middle category of like, I have done pretty well just without having to actually do too much.
Yeah, and I think...
And so you're just good enough that you're like, well, I don't need to put any more effort in yet. I don't need those extra spokes yet. Like, I'm getting by.
I think these are dangerously tied to ability though. So because if you're saying, and also anyone who's watching knows that I'm walking around at the moment trying to put the camera on charge at the same time. Let me just do that quickly. So like when you're trying to categorize by outcome versus input, I think that's where the difficulty lies. Because when you're saying, so that outcome being X strength or X level of competition versus the input, they're really different things, because you can have someone who goes the same mentality as me and their output's actually terrible,
right?
By a competitive standard. So I think 3 categories I think is reasonable in both sides of that. So you have the categories of beginner, intermediate, advanced, and that's just level of output. And then level of input is hobbyist, intermediate understanding, which is like I know some of the things that I should be doing, and then there's elite, and that is completely separate parameters, because those can, if you're seeing this in the 3 fingers of like, beginner doesn't mean low level effort, intermediate doesn't mean mid level effort. Yeah, they're very different approaches. Because I'm
so glad my idea could pave the way for you to explain
to do it properly. Yeah. So because if you take you have an intermediate to advanced output, right? So you podium at the nationals that you compete at. You qualify for any fucking nationals you wanted to do. You're not going to win nationals, so you're not like an elite. Yeah. But you're late intermediate to early advanced. Your input, I would say, is between beginner, like the hobbyist, and because what you did as a cheat code, this sounds like I'm just berating you. You hired me.
Yeah, it's cheat code.
What effort past that? You do the sessions to a T. How's your recovery?
Fine.
We do additional spin work, and I wouldn't say you necessarily look after like much parameters around it.
Okay. I'm not saying you're wrong.
And then nutrition.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up, full guy. And I just mean like, so if you were to take, you know what, I'll use Lucy. Elite output, I would say intermediate to beginner input. Where, so she goes on holiday, a big momentous, I'm not saying she shouldn't, I'm just saying these are the comparisons. So one of the best in the world, undeniably best in the country, followed by input being like body weight fluctuates, doesn't really nail down nutrition, recovery doesn't particularly look after, nails her sessions, nails her RPE, nails all those details. Does she do everything she possibly could at the moment? I would say no. Not to the standard I know is possible. Does she need to? She's got elite level output. That's really difficult to try to push her other bits.
Yeah. And so I guess just relating it to me, because obviously it's nice to relate these things. I'm sort of at that intermediate or late intermediate output with the beginner level input. And if I know I'm never going to be the elite, why would I do those other things?
And that comes back to the why, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I used to argue with you over something, which was I'd do it just to beat me. Right?
Yeah, I hate that phrase.
And I think you're unbelievably wrong. So happy to have this argument now. So going into my first competitions, I didn't know what was possible.
Yeah.
When I knew what was possible, I wasn't aiming for them. Records weren't on my list. I didn't know when I broke them. I didn't measure against other people, and when it was going to comps, it was not like how do I beat him. It was just as much as I can put out today. Like, what's the best I can fucking do? I never tried to win a comp by 2.5 kilos. My first ever one, because people were doing attempt selections for me, I did. But every comp past that, I just had no comprehension of what everyone else was doing. It was you can try and beat me. I'm doing my best, and I believe I'm working harder than everyone. So if you can beat me, you're better than me. But you're not going to beat me on my best day. And it was just doing my best every time. So yeah, the outcome was beating people, but the inputs to me mentally was just, what is the best I can possibly do? Beat that again. Okay, How was your session yesterday? Beat that again. And I just had no mindset for what everyone else was doing.
I do think it's fair to say that most people, for most comps, that is kind of the goal. Like, outside of if there's any chance of placing or winning, it is, I want to do more than I did at the last comp. They want comp PBs.
A lot of, like, if you watch Worlds, right, Carlina, here's a perfect example of someone who's playing a really interesting psychological battle, losing, really interesting. Carlina goes to Worlds. Carlina is the squat girl. Opens at 217. I think I might be wrong by a couple of kilos. Fucking live with it. 217. She's currently like good position to push for the day. She's trying to beat Agatha, which is a huge ask. She has to nail her squat. So second attempt, they jump to like 225. 225 for her is like I can always hit this top single. Misses. Drains the fucking tank. Goes for it on her third. Misses again. Legs are gone. Tired. Now, from that moment forward, you're not winning Worlds. It's over. There's like no chance. You need Agatha to miss everything. And her on the podcast is talking about like, I wasn't looking at Agatha. It was, I need to do everything I can do right now. Yeah. But that can go the other way. And I know lifters do this because I fucking watch them, which is just being like, okay, if they miss this, what I need to hit, watch this, what I need to hit, versus what's the best I can do. She went out for her last deadlift. I think this is so sick. And this is a representation of her having a better and different psychology to a lot of other people. Last deadlift changed nothing. No podium position change, no chance of winning, nothing. It was like 5 more kilos than her second attempt. And she grafted so fucking hard to get it. She hits it, which is amazing, and it's kind of beautifully emotional because her mum's in the audience. But it was just this big shift of putting winning out of her mind and putting anyone else out of her mind to just do what is the best I can do today. Yeah. And I think a lot of people aren't good at that. Because I think there's a lot of people where someone overtakes you who you want to beat, and you now just become buried in what they're doing.
I think there's so many, especially at that level, there's so many different things to consider though that obviously will affect the psychology of the lifter, but obviously the examples that you've just given, but also things like you could very well think, God, it's a real push to try and get a third lift here. I am spent. but like it would almost be embarrassing or disrespectful not to come out for your third. Like people will come out and attempt it anyway.
Yeah. The comp I told you about, the last BB comp I did, and then I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Felt like shit, where it was like opener, go home. I was just lazy. I just didn't want to do it. I was just like, fuck this. This isn't fun. I'm not enjoying it. I won best lifter. They called my name. I was like, cool, thanks. Like this feels stupid.
Yeah.
And that was just lazy. Like had no interest. But at that point, my psychology in lifting was gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a lot of the point of this is like, what are most people actually going to understand? Like people listening to this, they will understand the mentality mostly that I'm explaining about yours, of where it comes from, what powerlifting does for them, what it teaches them of their own character, and then how they can handle their performances. The question I had on there that I really wanted to make sure I asked, which was the Alex Hormozy thing. He was asking about if you wanted to make the perfect person, what would you put them through?
Yeah.
And I was driving here when I wrote it down, voice dictated it. Voice dictated.
The type of person you want to be, what would they have to go through to become that person?
Yeah, and I adore this because I think about this too often. And like to explain the framework, it's normally for me of being like, okay, so if I want to be, the term he uses, it really annoys me because it is the one that I relate to, but it's bulletproof, which is like nothing can happen that I can't manage. Well, then what do you have to go through? Every situation.
Yeah, every possible.
You have to deal with hardship, loss. You have to do stress and frustration at levels to which you'll never surpass again. That's the only way you can do it. By like everything else is immeasurable now. It doesn't matter. I can handle anything. So by that definition, I need to have handled everything.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, I've handled more stress than I thought I was ever capable of. I'm now quite hard to stress out.
Yeah.
I've handled more physical pain than I thought I could ever deal with. I'm pretty hard to concern. Like training, I hurt. I don't care. I've got pain. I'll mention I've got pain, but I'm still going to train. And so I think one of the big things, and I use that for business and I use it just for lifestyle, but for athletes. So if you're going to make the person, excuse me, sorry to all the listeners who just yawned in response, and you. Oh, that's an awful stifled yawn. My word.
That time I actually did.
You yawned on the last one.
No. Watch the video back. There's no yawn.
I don't watch any of these back. So I'll ask you, because I don't know my answer yet. and listening to you is the absence of my own thought. What would you put an athlete through to make them a better athlete?
I guess the first thing that comes to mind is probably like appreciating that it's a privilege to train.
So what would you put them through?
Oh.
You take it away.
Yeah, exactly.
You take training away and say you couldn't. Now, if I was being vindictive and if I'm honest, appropriate, I'd put them through serious injury.
Yeah.
Serious enough that they can't train properly, but not serious enough that actually derails the future of their career.
Yeah.
So people who get like a disc irritation or significant tendinitis, whatever, that pulls back training, and then they have to do the groundwork again and earn it.
Well, yeah, and because it would make them realise whether or not they actually want.
Because I always see, I've had this conversation with you about people go one of two ways. So it will happen this instance, this moment, and it can be, for some people it's like, for a month I'm going away, I can't train. And for some people it's an injury. And for some people it's a competition that goes so fucking horrifically that it kills them inside. And all of those three people do the same thing. They come back to the first day of training, weaker, worse off, and go, I'm going to fucking work for this.
Yeah.
I'm going to do everything I have to get back to where I was and better than ever. Or they go, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
And that's the moment I would want for a lot of lifters, because the ones who go the other side of the coin, who go like, I want to work so I'll do everything. I like working with those people. Yeah.
I think I mentioned this in one of the last podcasts we did together, but when I was chatting to Connor about, neither of us were particularly enjoying training at the time. It was just a couple of weeks for me, but I said, the thing is though, that I like to remember is that if you told me I couldn't train for the next week, I'd be like, no.
Yeah.
No, do not take it away from me. As hard as training was mentally, and as much as it wasn't fulfilling, don't you dare take it away from me.
And I think people having like, what about when you had your stress fracture on your rib? And being like, but you wanted to squat when you came back to squatting.
Oh yeah.
You wanted to deadlift again.
I never want to do a Hatfield squat ever again.
And I think, so that's one, which is to learn to love it, you have to take it away for a bit.
Yeah.
The other is, I would want an athlete to know they're not made of glass. that comes back to injury again.
Yeah.
And they would have to learn to deal with it. Because also, if you're going to do an extreme, honestly, if you're listening to this and you've ever complained about a niggling things, being like, I don't want to have that, don't powerlift. Don't do a sport
it's unavoidable.
based around forcing your body to respond to a stimulus.
Yeah.
Because if you're trying to be the fastest you can be, the strongest you can be, the biggest you can be, the process is damage your body to the point it can just fucking recover from.
Yeah.
And just adapt to. And but it adapts because you force stress on it that it doesn't want. So if you don't want to be uncomfortable at any point, stop fucking training.
Yeah, none of
Go
this
and
is
exercise.
particularly natural to like.
It's not. That's why people are breaking records, is they're doing unnatural things no one's ever... Anyway, I have a big... But, so that comes back to some sort of pathology at some point. And then what else would you put them through? Well, I would say resilient.
Yeah.
So I'd make them do it for decades. I would say, like, if you've not done a decade of a thing, of anything, this isn't talking about powerlifting now, if you've not done something for a decade, the Hormozy thing of start measuring in hundreds. So it's being like, I did everything I could this prep for squats. I'm like, you've trained for 6 months. You haven't even done 100 sessions. You haven't done 100 squats.
Depends how many times a week you train.
100 times. So how many primary days would you have done? If you've been, if you've done 6 months of training.
If you have
6 times 4.
Primary days.
Primary squat sessions.
Oh, right, yeah.
So 6 months, 4 a week. So 6 times 4 is?
24.
28.
6 times 4 is 24.
Guys, I've made a mistake. 6 times 4, 24. Anyway, so but you've done 24 primary squat sessions. And if you're like, my squat wasn't that good, I'm like, you did 24 top sessions. And it just like, if you start measuring in, so take Tony Clift, who's been in sport for, I don't know how long, and this man's still competing and making minutiae of progress. Understanding that if you're measuring hundreds, if you're measuring by, oh, you baby yawned.
What? I didn't do anything.
Okay, it's my fault again.
This is every episode is just us arguing over yawning.
It's most of it just us arguing. But I just don't think people measure in over a big enough time horizon.
Yeah.
Like, I have been injured more times than you've competed.
Yeah.
And being like, that big moment that you had to do, I had to do that, but the opposite of being like, you had to be at your best. I had to know what it was like to be at my physical worst more times than you were at your best. I had to know what it was like to do it from the ground. I'm not saying everyone should get injured, let's go break some people. I'm just saying, like, if you haven't experienced a lot of things, you don't know what it's like to have the one thing.
Yeah.
And I think people need more opportunity, a long enough time horizon. So I'd be like, you have to do it for a decade. At some point it has to hurt. What else?
I don't know.
I'd want them to understand how to measure success.
Oh, yes.
So I'd make them fail.
That's a good one.
Like, you want to know how much it means, know the absence of it. If you just keep making progress, you don't know what it's like to have a hard time. You haven't had a block where you made no progress, no PBs? Have 6 months of it. Like, have a year of things barely moved, the needle barely budged past 100. And then it was like, small tick. Okay, it was worth it. That's a year of work. Like, I think measuring in hundreds is like my favorite thing, because I spoke to Jake about it, about creating content.
Yeah. Of
like, how do we know what works? Make several hundred. And once we've made several hundred, we can complain about the results, which is why it became the post every single day.
Right.
So yeah, I think the whole, what would you put someone through? And for anyone who listens to this and is like, I don't really know how to apply this to myself, just being like, what athlete do you want to be?
Yeah.
What would they have to go through? It is probably exactly what you're going through right now. You are doing exactly what you need to.
But also, it's like, no one has to want to be elite or the best.
No.
Again, 99% of us never will be.
Yeah.
So it's just being honest with yourself about like, what kind of athlete do you want to be? What is it? What is the outcome you want, and what is the input that's appropriate for that?
And also knowing that, like, wanting to be elite isn't the deciding factor of if you will be.
Yes.
So like, there's no one I would say unequivocally wouldn't become elite. There's no one. What I would say is, if you were going to become elite, you would do this work. If you weren't sure if you could, you would do this work.
Yeah, it's
that's
kind
the
of like,
variable that doesn't change.
I could say, I want to be elite, but I don't think I ever could be. Never actually going to know for sure unless I'm putting all those spokes in the wheel to know whether that's even a possibility.
Exactly, and also the same way of being like, okay, you're not going to win, and then what? Like, did you only do this to win? Because winners, like, another point that I think is beautiful is, okay, name a world champion you know right now.
A world champion that I know right now?
Yeah.
It's going to have to be Agatha, isn't it?
Beautiful. Who won last year?
Was it Agatha?
No. Agatha, this is her first World Championships. I think it was Carlina. And the year before that, I think it was Jessica Beltner. And the year before that?
No, I don't know.
The year before that?
Don't
Go
know.
back 5 years, remember?
Yeah, but you're probably asking the wrong person because
I guarantee I could ask anyone.
And they wouldn't know.
And they wouldn't know 5 years ago who was the winner of that class. World record deadlift right now is what? Female deadlift. Across any weight class.
Across any weight class?
Yeah, in the IPF.
In the IPF?
I'll give you, it was taken by Amanda Lawrence.
Did she do it this year? No.
It was at Sheffield, right?
270 something.
Yeah, so I don't even know.
Yeah.
I think it's like 265.
I know in my weight class.
Jessica Bittner was 261 originally, right?
Yeah.
So I think it was like 265. Say it's more, I don't care. Point being, but what was it 5 years ago? Well, it'll never matter again because it's not the record now. So when you have in your bio, I was, well, like me, fucking world champion of X years, I don't even have it in there. But winning...
Do you not?
I don't know the years that it says it. No, it just says I want some. It doesn't even matter. The point being that being the best is a finite game. And this is an infinite game, right? And this isn't Cynic. Simon fucking Cynic. Right, let's talk about infinite games and finite games. Finite game is a fixed set of rules with a fixed outcome, right? So it is a football match. Fixed set of rules, someone will win or draw, but there'll be an outcome at a certain time frame.
Yeah.
An infinite game is things like getting healthy. You don't win, it doesn't end, you stay healthy. You don't win at business, you just keep building a business. You don't win at a relationship. There's no point you go, we did it. Nope. And
if you think it's marriage, you're wrong.
Oh, fuck yeah. God, that's not even close to a measure. And the goal of marriage is to be better and better at marriage and keep the ball rolling. There is a just endless time horizon. I believe strength is an infinite game. And if you're measuring by finite outputs and going like, okay, so I'm going to win this comp, I'm like, cool. And the next one? What about the one after that? And what about when someone else gets stronger? Are you still getting strong?
Yeah.
And I want people to understand the infinite game of it, not the finite.
And also winning isn't
I'm
necessarily...
turning some of these into sound bites. These are fucking wonderful.
Winning, if you were to look across every weight category over the last 10 years, I guarantee it's not just like that, the totals.
No, they fluctuate massively because you're playing the day.
And that's one of the big variables you talk about in comp is like, and why you should just show up intending to do your best, because if your best is good enough, you'll win.
Yeah, because also
and also you don't know who else is going to turn up.
And let me just ruin all of powerlifting. The strongest people don't win. The people who play the day best win. Because you can be like, no, the strongest person that day. I'm like, not if I deadlift after them. Like they could have had the best day all the way through, and they've put out a very good deadlift, and I've pushed the margin because I pulled a better deadlift. I wasn't the strongest overall. I just beat their one performance. One got overturned by the jury. The stronger person didn't win. One red light that you didn't anticipate. Someone gets called for bench depth on one call that doesn't seem regardless. Stronger person doesn't win.
Yeah.
And I've played game day. I've beaten people who should have beaten me.
I would have got best lifter if I hadn't missed out on those 2 benches at BP comp.
It would have been closer, yeah. But yeah, so I think understanding that, or at least I just like people to understand my perspective of strength is not an end result. Strength is a process that will take the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I want to be the strongest, healthiest 60-year-old I can be. I want to be the strongest 50-year-old there ever fucking was.
Yeah.
I don't really care about being the strongest today. If you did, then you're completely max out every session. There's your strongest that day, every day, go win.
Yeah.
And that's your winning. But if you want to be like, I want to keep getting stronger, there is no one day.
Yeah. So what would your advice be for someone who is listening to this and they're just thinking, someone who's just aware that they don't have the best mindset with training, or that they want to be better and they know that a way to better their performance is to better their mindset. Where do you start with stuff like this?
First of all, self-talk by a mile. So people who put on their stories being like, shit again, oh, trying again, oh, I'm not very good, being sub-average, whatever.
I just
people in their
remembered
fucking bios.
I just remembered what I put on my story yesterday. I was doing pause deadlift triples at 120 kilos, which for me should be
it's
nothing.
Very light, yeah.
But and I just put something like, it's just standing up, really, isn't it?
Because I think there's the self-talk thing is probably the most poorly done one, because people think they're just being funny and all they're doing is putting themselves into a bracket of never getting better.
Yeah.
And if you're perfect one with powerlifting, you have 3 tasks. 3. It's not that fucking hard. It's not a complex sport. You have fucking 3, and being like, well, this is my worst lift. Shut the fuck up. I hate it being like, deadlift's my worst. People ask me what my worst lift is. The only time I will say it's my squat is because I physically can't fucking squat half the time.
Yeah.
But past that being like, no, I just want to get better at all of them.
Yeah.
So I think putting into a bracket of what my worst one is, rather than this is the one I'm developing the most, this is the one I'm putting the most time into.
I really don't like it when people like, there's a very common thing of like, oh, I don't like bench. Hate bench. It's just lying down, isn't it? It's a rest between the two. I'm like, that's a whole third of your sport.
It's a third of the sport,
If I could improve my bench, I'd be unstoppable. Well, that's,
let's calm down.
Mentally.
But the point being, like, if you don't like a third of the sport, first of all, don't do the sport.
Yeah.
It's 3 components.
Go find a sport that's only got one.
Yeah, go be a deadlift only competitor. Fine. I don't even have disrespect for him. Like, genuinely, if you genuinely hate it, if you're just talking up to it to try and be funny or be clouty, I think you're a bellend.
Yeah.
But then the self-talk of like what you take into sessions. So this is the one that really winds me up of being like, oh, deadlift session, fuck off. Like, you are immediately controlling the output of that.
Yeah.
Whether or not you're like, no, but I do try. I'm like, no, you don't. Psychology has a quantifiable impact on output. Like, there is enough research to show that if you are saying X about the potential output, that you'll constrain it substantially. Self-talk of the people who go, I'm going to be the best, talks them into the direction of what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So I think if you're going to do the negative, you're the same problem. So self-talk's my first one. And then it's just, so my favorite thing is the word intent. Of just like, I think being intentional, so that intentional gives confidence, and then my whole thing of confidence through competence.
Yeah.
So if you're intentional about the skill, you apply the skill, you develop confidence in the skill, therefore you develop confidence in the lift.
Yeah, I'm going to butcher this, but I remember, so growing up, my dad being an entrepreneur and businessman, constantly in the car was audiobooks about all sorts of things. A lot of it would have been mindset, psychology, stuff like that. And I remember him saying something one time about, if you intend to do something, you'll do it. Like, if you go, oh well, I meant to do that, but you didn't, then you didn't mean to. You didn't intend to.
Yeah, I think so. What's the way of phrasing this? I think it's the real version of what manifestation pretends to be.
Yeah.
So when people are like, I spoke it into the world, I'm like, I brought it into the world. Oh my God, I made a reel for this, for True Grit Talks. Because I believe on the principle of dragging something into life. So, you know, I do this thing with you all the time. It's a very minute version of the same principle. We're in the car, I have a thought, rather than be like, oh, I should probably do something. I'm like, message me the thing right now.
Yeah.
And then I will message the person about the idea. So if it's like, oh, I want to make stickers for the brand. So this is a tiny example of something I do en masse. And be like, okay, I'm going to message a company right now.
Yeah.
It might not be the company I work with, but I'm dragging the principle into life as fast as I can.
Yeah.
If it's I want to do something, I message Beth being like, this is what I want to do. So that when she replies to me, I can reply to that with a full thought rather than like a partial. And I think it comes with, so when it's like, if you intend to do the thing, you'll do the thing.
Yeah.
Is if you intend to do it, you will take the first step immediately. If you're like, I like the idea, there's no first step. You don't do it. Yeah. And so like when it comes to powerlifting, of like, so if someone said, right, if you're listening to this and Rach just said, I want to improve my psychology, what's my first thing for them? If you're listening to this and you went, yeah, what's my first step? If you genuinely wanted to do it, you'd have done it by now. If you genuinely want to do it right now, you'd do it at the end of this podcast. And if you genuinely think you want to do it and you don't do it at the end of this podcast, you're a liar, you don't want to do it, you need a reality check. You don't care enough, you like the misery more. And that's our deepest fear thing. And as much as that will, like some people are like, no, it's just because I'm busy. It's fucking not. It's our deepest fear thing, which is the whole, you are comfortable being constrained by the limitations of your belief. Oh, where does this come from? But the idea of being like, I'm shit. Shit is comfortable. Shit is safe. I can do that. Rather than going, I could be great. That's a responsibility and an accountability.
Again, though, it's the sort of thing of like, what is the kind of person that you think you want to be? And then what would you put them through? And you're going, I actually realise I don't want to go through that.
Yeah, which is fine.
Then I don't really want to be that person, because if I wanted to, I would do it.
Yeah, I think there's normally a relatively wide divide between someone's reality and expectations of reality.
Yeah. Of
being like, so even I've had conversations with people and I talk who want to talk about work ethic, and I'm like, okay, well here's what I do. This is my thing. I just made a vlog being like, no, every hour I wake up, I work because I want to work. And they're like, yeah, no, I work really hard. I'm like, if that's what you believe and you don't, you have a problem. And it's going to kick you in the face at some point where reality is going to go, you don't work that hard, and now you think you work hard, which means when it does get hard, you don't even know how to step past that level because you've never been to the level you thought you were at in the first place.
Yeah, like spectrum.
Get me on a podcast with Alex Hormozy.
It's like spectrum of stress, spectrum of what is hard work. Yeah.
Oh, spectrum.
I'm very fortunate. I do not have to work hard in my life. I work not hard. You know, I have very little pressure. Whereas, and I wouldn't even consider this in the grand scheme of things being that hard working, but like I used to get up at 5:30 every morning to then prepare breakfast and lunch, to then drive to the gym before work, because it was the only time I could go. I'd go and, I was going to say train, I've probably not the right word, I'd go and exercise, and then I would get ready at the gym, then I would go to work early to miss the traffic. I was project manager, so it was bang, 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 meeting, like managing everything. Sorry, I've been up early. Getting up early is now my hard work. And then I would stay late because one, I was so busy and had so much work to do, but two, because if I left on time, it would take me 2 hours to get home. And I only wanted it to take an hour. So get home, make dinner, practically go to bed. Like, whereas now I have a lot more freedom. I don't work hard.
I also want to intervene that of saying, like, so I know there's an unintentional response that people's brains will have, which is someone talks about, so you've just spoken about, I did X, Y, Z, I worked really, really hard, and someone goes, ugh, that person doesn't have to work hard. Because
the person goes, ugh.
Yeah, because the person who, like, so when I speak about aggressive work ethic and people are like, oh, that's so much, I'm like, cool, you'll never fucking do it. And I'm good with that because that makes you so easy to beat.
Yeah.
Like, and this is the thing that, again, it always draws back because Hormozy said it and just found a way to vocalize something that I've thought about previously, but the people don't know how to work. So I'll give you some common examples that people say, and all it tells me is you're full of shit and you don't get it, which is like, the knowing how to work. So people who say, what was the example?
Work blocks?
Work blocks is one, but there's some really specific things I wanted to cover and then it just immediately left my brain. Knowing how to work. Oh, I struggle to pay attention. I struggle to focus for long periods of time. No, you don't. That's like saying, I struggle to run 1,000 meters. That's because you don't fucking do it. You don't know what it's like to sit at a desk and have no choice.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what it's like to go, right, no phone here, because I don't have time to text someone. I don't have time to talk to loved ones. Yeah. I don't have time to go on Instagram. What the fuck is Instagram for? I have to do X work.
Yeah.
So telling me that you're not very good at X is the epitome of the thing that I hate, misunderstanding that is a skill. So everything you do, if you're like, oh, I'm not very good at squatting, you are not trying to squat. You are not trying everything under the sun. You're not putting time into it. How many times have you sat in your bedroom practicing? When I was like, I want to be the fucking best, and I didn't understand bracing, I braced at my desk, I'm not exaggerating, 100 times a day of being like, what does that feel like? Cool, do it again. What does it feel like? Do it again. 100 times a day. And it's like, if you're saying, so obviously we're verging from the field of just powerlifting, but it's like, okay, so I'm just not very, like, I'm at uni. Uni students, the fucking worst. And I was one of them. And like, Beck said that on a podcast and then everyone got real mad. I'm going to repeat it. You're the worst. It's because you have no concept of a wider scale of stress.
Yeah.
And so when you're given this dosage of stress, you're like, oh, that's outside what I'm capable of. And you're right. That's good. Because the idea is to grow.
Yeah.
And so if you're given this dosage of stress and go like, oh, I'm not very good at that, you get good at that by doing that every day against your will. And you force yourself into the situation. When I was we're talking about the fact that you had a really extensive, busy schedule. When I had, like, the busiest bit I've always referred to and always refer to will only be the busiest bit of my life again. I cannot replicate it even if I tried, which was the waking up at 5. And for the context of, I was not going to bed until 12 or 1. So I was not sleeping. That's not an exaggeration, it's a reality. Ask the people that lived with me. Past that point, it was wake up, then I would drive to London, which was an hour drive. Cut it down by getting up a little bit earlier. So I had to be up earlier than 5. I would, depending on what traffic was like that month. And then it would be arriving at university. I would study at the Hendon campus, 6 till, I think it was like 7:30 or 8, whatever. And it's not 8, I'd sit down and I would study.
Check my phone.
I would then be in lectures till lunch. At lunch, it was not go and have lunch. If I had food, sick, very unlikely. I would then go and run the injury clinic, and I'd do that through my lunch break. So 1 hour time slot back. I would then go back to lecture, and I would be in lecture. This is on a master's course. It wasn't like fucking fun frills, it was work. And then the lecture would finish and I would go run the, either the on-site one with Saracens, I would run their injury clinic, or I would run the Hendon campus one, or I was driving back from London and then I was running the the Horsham one. And so if I was doing that, I was at Saracens, and then I would train, and I would find a time in the evening to train, and then I would go back and I would study, and then I would sleep. I was training preparation for World Championships, and I was working my fucking arse off in the gym as best as I could. I didn't have a minute of a day. Like, there was no spare time. I will never repeat that level of work because it fucking killed me.
Yeah.
And I think I'd maintained it like top end for like 6 months until I was very ill and finished my dissertation and could sleep. But my point being, like, my entire life was bad at studying. I sucked at school. I sucked at my first degree. I had 3% attendance on my first degree. 3%. I went less than the guy who emptied the bins. Like, I did not go to any of the university bit, and I still left with a first.
Yeah.
But I learned how to do it by forcing myself to do it. So when someone's saying they're bad at X, you are not working at it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not bad at it because that's your trait and that's your character. You're bad at it because you're not trying to get better at it.
Yeah.
I'm not good inherently at anything. I have no God-given skills. The only thing is I have a very logical approach to being like, I need one outcome. How much input do I need? 1,000. If I 10x that 1,000 and I do that 10,000 times, I'll get 10. Cool. I'll do that 1,000,000 times and I'll get my 1,000. I really hope that maths was good, because if it is, that's sick. But the point being, like, you don't have to be good at it inherently. And this is the part of psychology that really fucking frustrates me, is people paint themselves into a corner that they don't want to leave because they don't accept that there's actually work that they could do and they are responsible for.
Yeah, and I think there's
so angry.
There's probably, I would imagine there's a lot of, oh, it's just the way I am.
Yeah,
I can't change how I think. Like, I can't change the thoughts that pop into my mind. Which is amazing, because you give yourself the out to change everything else about your life. Yeah.
You're like, oh, but I can change my hobbies, I can change my friends, I can change what I'm interested in, I can change how I choose my time. I can't change what I'm capable of, though. Yes, you fucking can. You absolutely can.
I wanted to give an example, and I'm a bit scared. But I doubt that they'll ever listen to this, so I'm going to go for it.
Oh, hold on.
My sister.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
And any of you who are listening to this who think you know my sister, it's probably not that one. Different sister. It has been in therapy for a while. She's actually training to be a psychologist, which I have mixed thoughts on. But anyway, she needs a new therapist, in my opinion, because I don't believe that she is at a point where she actually wants to get better, which is a really common thing and something that I think some therapists straight up ask of, like, do you actually want to get better? Do you want to better your life, or do you just want someone to hear about it? And there was a particular thing that she was struggling with, and she's like, very much has said words to the effect of, oh no, I have this problem. Yeah. I have this problem. Not wanting to change it.
Yeah, that's our deepest fear thing. And if anyone listens to this being like, that's a really naive thought process. For context, have been bulimic, anorexic, orthorexic, depressed, suicidal, and attempted. So I'm like, I know those things, and I can say that, like, anyone who's been through it and actually been through it and come out of it better eventually. I'm not saying that they came out and they were like, I feel so good.
Yeah.
I mean, they got through it and their life did shift. They know that they did so much to get there. It didn't just happen and time passed.
Yeah.
So I know that's the extreme, but I don't want someone to listen and be like, no, people do just suffer and it's sad. I'm like, you're right. And then they get better by doing something.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that people are lazy. I'm not saying that if you go through depression, that you're just being lazy and not trying. Yeah. Sometimes you are incapacitated.
Well, the basic bitch version being, do what you've always done and get the outcome you've always got.
And that's what I mean, is that that I'm playing the extreme, that if I take it to the extreme, the point does still stand. And therefore the point is always relevant. Yeah. Always a good principle, by the way. If you have a thought and opinion, you play it out to the most extreme situation you possibly can. And if it still applies, you're right. Yeah.
Because I think humans are, and like emotions and things, that are incredibly complex, but they're actually very malleable. Is that the right word?
Well, it depends how you use this. Before you credit yourself.
We have way more control over it than we think.
Oh, it's not malleable then. The thing isn't malleable.
Mould it. Malleable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a lot.
Yeah.
What are you needing?
I'm gesturing what I believe malleable to be. But yeah, we actually have a lot more control over it than we think. It just takes work, and often people can't do it straight away. So it's not I tried and it didn't work, and you have to keep trying. You have to do it over and over and over again.
But I think what's also interesting is because if people listen to this and being like, these are two very opinionated people. Me and Rach are very different people.
Oh, so different.
Because when we're talking this of like, do everything in your power, absolutely. Hi, that's me.
Yeah. do a little bit sometimes.
Do some, enjoy your life.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just thinking where I was saying how my life now is not that hard. Like I don't have to work hard. I have to work, but not hard. And I bet there's some people listening to it who are like, this bitch doesn't know anything. Like she's just said she doesn't even work hard. And I'm like, that doesn't mean I don't know how or that I haven't. Or maybe actually my version of hard work or your version of hard work is my version of easy work. Because my scale's bigger.
So the spectrum thing I think is important. Let's bring it back to powerlifting so that we don't just sound like two arrogant people judging everyone. But of saying like, so we're talking about the spokes on a wheel. I would implore someone to do it for a month, not to do it for life. Fuck no, you're not going to maintain it. It's an insurmountable task to maintain that for the rest of your life for most people. But if you said every spoke for now, when that comes down, you don't come back down to where you were. You come back down to an average that's higher than you've ever been.
Yeah.
So I'll use you as an example of saying, so you've worked very hard. I would still say less hard than I've ever worked. I'm going to say it was very hard. Probably. I'm only saying it because I think it's important that we're not just sitting here gassing each other up.
Yeah.
I will just tear you apart. But so you've worked very hard. And now when you have to work hard and we're like, today, everything needs doing. There is no fucking breaks. You can.
Yeah.
It's not that you don't it's because you don't have to very often, but it's not that you can't anymore. Whereas it's just not demanded of you. My thing of being like, I've worked the hardest I'll ever work means that there's just nothing else that a day comes up going like, Callum, you're getting up at 6 and you are going to end the day at midnight. Okay. Yeah. It doesn't scare me like it used to. And I think for powerlifters, the reason I would say for 1 month, you do everything you can. It's not because that becomes your standard. It's because your standard becomes something new. Yeah. Of being like, that was really hard. But all the other stuff was quite easy. That stuff wasn't actually too bad. Like when I was just going in and I was taking off sessions, that's actually quite easy. I could maintain this one and this one. And I think that's what I'd want people to shift, is understanding how many variables they could maintain quite comfortably if they understood how many variables they have to maintain if they wanted to.
Exactly, and there's so many tools to help you with that. So, you know, just to make those things happen, there's so many books, so many audio books, podcasts where, you know, you talk about habit stacking. There's so much that can help you do those things. And like you said, even if the goal wasn't to maintain that at the end of the month, take away 5 out of 15. You're still better than you were, like you said.
Oh, that was the other one. So I, again, Hormozy used this on talking about weight loss. So you had these clients and it was like, out of 20 sessions, this month, out of the 80 meals I told you could have, how many did you have? And they were like, oh, I had 35. Oh no, it started with them saying, I had 35 of those meals. And he said, out of how many? And they were like, 80. And we're like, you didn't even hit 50%.
Yeah.
How hard do you think you tried?
Yeah.
Because we gratify such low levels of effort. Yeah. I just want people to know what 100% feels like.
That's the thing, and it's not even to shame anyone. And again, if you want it, you want it and you'll do it. If you don't, it's fine. It's fine to not want it.
Also, because what you do want is incredibly valuable. So if you're the person who's like, I just want to get stronger, the number of spokes you need is substantially lower.
Yeah.
Like you do just need to do some of the basics. And as you progress over time, you need to add the spokes. And so there's absolute valid argument to be said to do not push to the extreme because you'll have nothing left in the tank when you get better. Yeah. I'm just saying that the number of spokes you're applying isn't that hard yet.
So the advice you were giving was number 1, self-talk. Number 2, can't remember.
I think it was like go get injured for 6 months. No, self-talk was one of the biggest ones. The intent was another one, and visualization was the one as a practice for most people when they're competing. Yeah. But I would say genuinely, if any of this is of any value to you, it will be because you understand your why. Yeah. And you have to put real time into it because your why isn't I want to get stronger. That's not anyone's why. Yeah. And everyone's why is a positive. This is the thing that Simon Sinek teaches, that there is no true why that's a negative. So it's not I don't want to be X. It's I want to do this for Y. And so it's not like this person hurt me and so. It's normally what it taught you is the positive. You always focus on the positive of the why. And so if you can get the root thing of like what it is that makes you want to do it, what it is that makes you want to powerlift. I know why I powerlift at an absolute core. I know why I coach at an absolute core. Mine is because I want to have people have the best opportunities to have the best moments of their life. And I get to be a part of that. That is both non-altruistic and horribly honest of being like, I want to be part of the reason people have the best part of their life and they don't. And the negative of the why is they don't do what I did, which is do it alone, do it badly, do it sad.
Yeah.
That was horrible to say out loud. But yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much more that needs to be added to that.
No. If there is anyone who has any more questions about it or wants to...
If you want to discuss specific, I can talk about this shit all fucking day. And obviously we've shifted from powerlifting to like extraneous life circumstances. But I do think that like they are the same thing.
Yeah, it can be applied. So,
Thanks.
thanks. I try not to talk too much this time.
You let me talk a lot more. I apologise for
great.
dominating the conversation.
I'm more than happy if you dominate the conversation.
Why did you make it weird at the end?
You made it weird by giving me the eye.
I just looked at you like, what were you saying? Sorry, listeners. Rich took a turn.
No, it's fine. It's good when you talk. You got better answers. And you don't stumble over your words as much as I do, which is great for a podcast.
And I studied it and I do it for a job.
Yeah.
But Rach is very good at drawing out good conversation with me.
If people heard our everyday conversations, they would not believe that at all.
I do love the sentence I've said to you that I still feel kind of bad about is you say something because you talking is the absence of my thought. It's when I don't have anything to say yet, or I'm like, I don't know yet, so you talk and then I'll fill in my gaps in a minute. Love you.
Love you.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. Dick wads.
Say dead bugs.
Dick wads.
Oh.